Hey, it's Jeff. Welcome back to another video. Today is going to be a plant chores video as we just returned back from a week of camping. So I have an endless list of plant chores to do. So I'll be doing some updates with some plants that I've shown recently. I'll be doing some watering and some repotting. I'm going to start off with my plants downstairs here and then I'll kind of work upstairs. Fortunately, I did not lose any plants while we were away, but I did have to do some watering last night as when we returned, some of my plants were really thirsty. I kind of planned it out that I watered most of them just before we left because I knew they could tolerate that, 5, 6, 7 days of being away without water. So I did have to water some of them last night. One of them being my Homelamina selby. If you saw my Instagram stories, you would have seen that it was completely flopped over, and within hours, like 3 hours of giving it water, it started to perk back up again. So let's get into it. I don't know about you guys, but one of the first things I like to do with plant care when I get home from vacation is remove all the yellow leaves from plants. That's pretty common. Like, I'll lose a bunch of leaves, so I'll just throw them out. Here's my Alocasia fradique looking good. This one right here is a really cool plant. It looks like a spider plant, but it's actually an Aglaonema. You can see by the stem. I have no idea what the name is, but you can see it almost looks like a cutlass or like an emerald beauty, but it has these really narrow leaves. It is super cool. One stem here is losing a bunch. This was really dry yesterday, so I'm not surprised that it was losing a few leaves, but I find it actually quite therapeutic, I guess, just removing leaves off of stems like that. Okay, one more yellow right here, and I just like to peel it off. Okay, so it's looking new again. It's actually gotten a new little sprout on the side right there, so it's starting to divide, I guess. But what a cool looking Aglaonema. This trip I really didn't have too many plants struggling, which is nice. Usually I come back and there's a few plants that have died or lost a bunch of leaves, but I'm just going to use this empty potting soil bag. I'm just going to go around and see what else we got for yellow leaves. Everything else looks really good for the most part. Which one is this? The Forgetii. It's losing this leaf, but I'm going to leave it on for now. But everything else on this section of the table looks good. I'm going to put this guy back. Okay, here is my larger peace lily. I think peace lilies are super underrated. They have such gorgeous leaves on them, and if you can get them to flower again, that's awesome. This is going to get cut off here, but I'm going to give this one some water. It's pretty light. The soil is really dry. Most times I bottom water these, but today I'm just going to soak the soil and let it come out the drain holes. Just using filtered tap water. I use a little cartridge that attaches to the tap itself. It uses a replaceable cartridge that apparently filters out harmful minerals like chlorine. Actually, I'm just going to take a few of these yellow leaves off first. So I'm just going to cut them off. Where's the other one? I like to give the leaves a little bit of a tug first, and if they don't come easily, then I'll cut them off. There. I like to pull them off so that you get the entire section that attaches to the stem and it doesn't just rot. There's also these little dry flower stalks that simply just pull out as well. And yeah, just clean it up a bit. Clearly I have to rotate it because you can see where all the light is coming on one side here. Does that come out? Nope. I think everything else is looking good. There's a yellow leaf in there. I'm gonna let that get a little bit more yellow. I'm also guilty of not giving peace lilies a chance when I first started out, because you obviously want the rarest, the nicest plants. But going back to just having like common house plants, I absolutely love it. It's such a beautiful plant. Like I said, it's underrated. I do have 3 varieties. All definitely need some water. So yeah, this one is just going to get a good soaking. It's still in its original pot and like nursery pot and soil. Just gonna let that drain through. This was in quarantine for a while. Didn't see any bugs or pests or anything like that. Haven't had any issues with it. And I'm just going to soak the soil just like that. Let it drain through. Another peace lily that I have is this absolutely gorgeous variegated domino peace lily. It's actually getting some new flowers for me. These are new as of like a week ago. It just has this kind of nice white speckling on the leaves. I don't know if you can see it, get it in there properly, but I think you can find these at most like specialty plant shops for pretty cheap. I think this one was like 15 or 20 bucks. I have since repotted it in a little bit of a larger pot. It was pretty squished in this little one. So I'm just going to cut off a few leaves. There's a couple brown crispy leaves at the bottom. There's a couple smaller yellow leaves down there. And then I'm going to give it a good soaking. I can't believe it flowered so fast. Like, I haven't had this one for very long. It's just right here on my the side of the plant table. It gets light from this grow light. And again, I will usually bottom water these. That way it just soaks it up nice and slow, but today I'm going to give it a soaking from the top down and just kind of flush out the soil. Every once in a while I'll top water and just, like I said, just kind of flush out any salts or any minerals that may be building up in the soil, like at the bottom. If you constantly bottom water, that there is a tendency for those salts and minerals, if you use like tap water, just to remain in the soil. So just flush it out, give it a good thorough soaking. The weight of the pot is much heavier as well, so I know it's thoroughly watered. There's a couple more crispy little leaves in there. I don't even want to show you guys like the zoomed out portion of my plant workshop area. There's stuff everywhere. There's pots on the floor, there's soil bags. The rest of the basement has one of my pianos down here, as well as some kid stuff. So it's an absolute disaster just kind of outside of this area. But yeah, maybe I'll give you guys a tour sometime of the whole area. All my plants down here are 100% grow lights, with the exception of, I do have a basement window, which I have a bunch of like pothos plants up there, which I'll show you guys sometime as well. Okay, what's next? I basically watered all my anthuriums last night, with the exception of this guy right here. This is my crystallinum. Here's the newest or latest leaf, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so I kind of struggled with anthuriums when I first started to get them. They were getting like brown crispy leaves, or coming out deformed. Basically what I chalked it up to is inconsistent watering, and the way I kind of corrected that issue is I actually top dress with sphagnum moss, and when the moss, like, I don't know if you can hear it, it's like crispy, it's dry. So I know that the rest of the soil in this terracotta pot is dry as well. I try not to let it get too dry. It still has like a little bit of weight to the pot, but I know this definitely needs to be watered. And the way I like to water it is I actually use this pump action spray bottle. It allows me to evenly water the sphagnum moss, and I just soak it like this. If I was to use a watering can, which I sometimes do, you'll get like lots of water on one side, it'll be dry on the other, but I like to just kind of rehydrate the moss. Just kind of go around the pot until it comes out the bottom of the drain hole. That way I know all areas of the moss get water. Nothing yet. I think I fertilized the last watering as well, so I'm not going to give it any more today, but you can see it is getting another new little leaf there. You can see now the moss is quite moist and spongy, so it's absorbed the water, and is it coming out the bottom? Looks like it's coming out the bottom now. I forgot to empty my little drip tray, but I'm just going to give it a little bit more water, just so I know it is thoroughly watered. I have two Anthurium clarinerviums. This one is not top dressed. I'm just kind of doing a little bit of an experiment. And here is one that is top dressed with sphagnum moss, just seeing how often I have to water the two. And now that I think of it, I haven't really been keeping track of the progress, so I have no information to tell you right now. That was really useless. But I'm just going to give this one some water. Here is a pot of Hoya polyneura. This one is really light, so I know this needs to be watered. I know I fertilized this one last time as well. I did put out a Hoya pubic calyx video today, so if you want to go check that out, I'll leave it up in the top corner. I neglect my Hoyas, and this one is underneath the grow light as well. It absolutely loves it, and look at these leaves. These are single leaf propagations from the mother plant, which I don't even know what happened to it. I think I sold it or traded it, but you can see this is where I've made the previous cut, and it's got an entirely new stem. So there's, I think, 4 or 5 single leaf cuttings in there, which are now filling out into a nice full pot. I'm going to be taking a break from watering, and I'm going to be repotting this absolutely gorgeous philodendron majestic that I actually won from an Instagram contest. Becca from @HerPlantStories. If you don't follow her page, go check it out. She gave me this absolutely gorgeous 1-leaf cutting of her philodendron majestic, and it's now gotten 2 leaves since it's been in my carrots in the original pot in soil. I'm going to be adding it into a little bit of a larger pot with a cedar plank. Whoops, this is getting caught. And I had to do a little bit of modifying at the bottom here so that it fits in the pot. I did make a, oh come on, need more room here. I did make a plants on planks video a little while ago, and in those videos I used pine, but I have been saving some of these cedar planks in my shed for a little while. So it actually did have a little bit of like stain, a little bit of a paint. This is from my kid's old cedar playhouse. I just demolished it, threw the rest into the garbage, but I saved a lot of these cedar boards, which they're absolutely perfect. So I did spray it down with some rubbing alcohol, and then I rinse it off quite thoroughly, let it sit out in the sun for a couple days, and yeah, so this guy is going on a plank. I'm going to tie it up and train it to get larger leaves. So what I typically do is I'll take the plant out of the pot here first. I just watered this yesterday as it was really dry, and it's not root bound or anything like that. And you can see Becca has used moss at the top as well. It's just good at holding in a little bit more moisture and not letting it get as dry. I'll show you one of my my philodendron varicosum. I have it, or I did pot it in a little bit of a larger pot. I'm having a little bit of difficulty, even though it's in a clear pot. I feel, or I'm afraid I'm going to overwater it, so I think I've actually been underwatering it. I'll show you. So it's getting a little bit of some crispy edges, which I don't want. So without hitting the roof, I add the plank in first, and I'm going to add some soil. This is a combination of like big chunky orchid bark, charcoal, and perlite, as well as some soil. I normally use ProMix's tropical plant mix, but unfortunately I can't find it anywhere right now in any stores, so I just use ProMix's cactus soil mixed in with their orchid bark potting or mixture, I guess. So I'm just going to add a little bit of soil at the bottom and at the back. I didn't even size it up. I probably should have done that first. Actually, that should be okay. I'm just going to take a little bit of soil out. And take this moss off the top here as well. Okay, are you going to stay? Just going to pack it down. Stay. I'm going to remove some of the moss at the top. Just loosen up. I'm trying not to damage the roots, but I'm just going to loosen it up just a little bit so that when I put it in the pot. Okay, she has a section, where's my pruning shears? There's a large section of the stem right here that doesn't have any roots, so I'm going to cut that off. Where's my pruners? Now, I do run the risk of having some rot at the end of this stem, but say like, look, there's no roots on this section or this portion of the stem at all. It all comes from that node. So I'm actually going to cut this stem back a little bit, just so I can have more room to properly seat this in the pot. I'm going to butt this up right against the cedar plank in the middle so that I can attach it to the plank. And now I'm just going to backfill with some soil, and that's it. I love this plant, and it's done so well for me so far. Okay. Making sure it's centered properly before I pack it down. Yeah, if you don't go follow her page, like, what are you doing? You have to go. She posts tons of stories. She has absolutely gorgeous plants. She just moved a few provinces over, so yeah, she has very interesting content on Instagram. Go check her out. It's a little bit floppy, but that's okay because I'm going to be adding the plant fabric. I don't want to damage this newest leaf. Okay, it's still hardening off, like it's soft. I'm just going to add this right there. I bought this, okay, this is really floppy until I give it some water. I bought this cheap dollar store plant tie, and you can see that the white is on the outside, but the white part is actually the Velcro, and that should be green because that's supposed to face outside. And the soft felt fabric part is the portion that I have touching the plant because I don't want the sharp, prickly Velcro to be like digging into the stem. So this dollar store stuff, it has green fuzzy fabric, white prickly Velcro, which should be the opposite. I don't know why they just don't make it all green. Okay, I'm going to give it some water so that the soil settles and everything becomes more stable in this pot as I don't want it to tip over. Okay, let's take a peek. Do I have it center? Everything looks really good. I like to make my plant ties pretty snug so that all these little bumps, these little aerial roots, come in contact with the wood. And I'm going to use my spray bottle. I usually water just like the plank itself. So I'll soak that so that it trains those aerial roots to search out for that moisture and adhere or latch onto the plank. And I'm just going to give this a little bit of a soak here as well, just to, like I said, to settle the soil so that everything becomes nice and stable in there. I also sprayed off my terracotta pot, as when you first buy them, it's good to rinse off any of that like terracotta dust, but also it just kind of saturates the pot itself. It's really porous. You don't want the pot just soaking up all that moisture after you water it, so that's why I like to kind of pre-soak, pre-rinse my pots before I place any plants in them. I'm going to soak this until it comes out the bottom of the drain hole. You can see it's a pretty good draining mix. Just something like that. We'll let that drain through, and yeah, everything looks nice in the center. This leaf will hopefully kind of, I guess, face the light. It's just off to the side right now. Hopefully that corrects. I don't want to damage the leaf. I don't want to touch it too much because it's still, like I said, hardening off. So I'm going to place it back down on the floor, right down there, and let it continue to grow upright, or latching onto this plank and getting larger leaves in the process. This is one thing you cannot have enough of, terracotta saucers and pots. Like I have a whole bunch of pots down there underneath there as well, filled in my cabinet. Every time I see them at the dollar store, that's where I get most of my pots from. I buy a lot, and then I just set them aside. Okay, I got my little 2-pack. And the nice thing about these is terracotta, like I said, is really porous, but these are glazed. This is a glazed bottom, so it will not wick through the bottom and ruin your floor, or table, or whatever it is you have it on, shelf. Okay, okay, I'm gonna do it like this. A little sketchy. Okay, there. Don't fall over. Okay, here's its spot, just tucked in behind the monstera. It gets light from a Plant Spectrum Mother Grow Light. This is where it's going to be, and it's just underneath my plant shelf on the plank. I've committed to the planks. If you watch my channel for any length of time, you know I have a bunch, like right over here. I have a bunch of planks. I want to make a nice plant wall. Okay, so it's right beside a humidifier, and I cleaned up the floor a little bit here too, as it was pretty dusty and dirty. But I just want to show you guys this. Look at this aerial root on this Monstera. So it starts right here, and it goes all the way on the floor. I don't even, oh geez, I just cracked it. Just snapped it. But look, it's all the way back there. I don't even know where it goes, like how far it goes. Oh, I snapped it. Okay, well that's, look at this thing. Huge. I cracked it right there. What I normally do is if the roots or aerial roots just starts to grow and search out for that moisture, I like to just tuck it back in the pot, just like that. So with this one, you can actually cut them off and it will regrow. So I'm just going to snip this one right there. I could have even like snipped it and then just kind of placed it in the soil, but look at this thing. Monster root, aerial root from the Monstera deliciosa. So yeah, it will regrow. Like I've cut these off before and they do sprout again. So like right here, it like I cut it right there, it just branches off and it'll get another section of aerial root. So yeah, nothing to worry about there. Here is my philodendron gloriosum. Here is the newest leaf. I'm just going to leave this one in the pot here as well. And then here is my Anthurium Villanorum. This leaf's not looking the greatest. Looks like it's getting some new growth here. So I'm just going to tuck these guys right back in that spot. And I want to show this Anthurium pedato radiatum. This is the leaf, like I got it with 2 leaves, and it's getting a new leaf, and it's finally getting those like leaf fingers. If you don't know what a pedato radiatum Anthurium looks like, Google it and you'll see just how peculiar and unique these leaves are. As you can see, my floor is absolutely disgusting, so I'm just going to clean this up. I try and vacuum like as much as I can, but sometimes when you're using like that misting spray bottle, sometimes a little bit of the residual spray gets on the floor and it just gets a little bit dusty and dirty. Okay, here is my philodendron SP Columbia Silver. It's going to need some water. Looks like it's getting to be a little bit dry, like 3/4 of it's dry. So I'm going to give it some water here as well. Here's my philodendron Birkin that I chopped the top off in order to get it a little bit more bushier. This thing, I don't know, I can't get these large leaves, and mine just look, you know, it doesn't look luscious. It just looks very, I don't know, I'm not really liking it. But regardless, you can see it's getting 2 new growth points, one right there and one on the back side. So it should start to kind of branch out into more of a bushier plant. And here is my little Sarcistis mirabilis. It's not really doing anything, it's just kind of surviving. Okay, clean and shiny. All right, I'm gonna give this one some water. I told you guys I had a lot of plant chores to do today. Same thing with this philodendron. I have a top dressed with sphagnum moss. It's pretty crunchy and the pot is pretty light. You can see it's maybe a little bit damp at the bottom. Now this plant really hasn't done much for me because I think it started to develop some root rot, and I actually took it out of the pot a little while ago, so it's finally just recovering. And I don't know if you can see, but it looks like it might be getting some roots along the sides. Maybe not. Maybe those, yeah, you can see there's a little bit of roots on the side. So it has recovered. I'm hoping it puts out some new growth soon. It did have this growth point that it basically turned brown and it rotted off. So you can see it's getting a nice red coloration again. So I'm hoping I get a new leaf with this one soon. So this one I'm going to water with the watering can and not the misting bottle. Just going to let that drain through. You can see it's saturated on the side, or the water drains out through the side. it's still really light, so I'm just going to give it a little bit more water. Something like that, and let it drain through. It's in a nice airy aeroid mix, well, like with that orchid bark and tropical soil. Here's that varicosum I was telling you guys about a little bit earlier in the video. I repotted it in probably too large of a pot initially, but it is starting to get some new growth, I think, on the sides. There's some roots starting to pop through. And same with this one. I'm not too sure if this is a melanochrysum or if it's a splendid. I think it's a melanochrysum. Here's the newest leaf. It's still hardening off. Same with this one, but it is getting some roots on the side. So this one's doing really well. This varicosum, it's getting some yellow, kind of brown edges at the tips here. This is usually a sign of underwatering. So I'm going to give it some water today. And again, just like most of my other planks, I like to water the back of the plank just so that it, I guess, soaks in the moisture in the wood here, and those aerial roots search out into the wood and latch on all by itself there. So you see it's already draining out the bottom, so it's a well-draining mix, but I think I'm just not watering it enough. So I'm just going to soak it a little bit more this time. It's already filling up the saucer. Feels a little bit heavier. Now, I get a question quite often, or I should say every once in a while, about what I'm going to do once the plant, or like this one in particular, once it outgrows the plank. I have this one on a shorter plank, and what I'm going to do is once it reaches the top, I'm actually going to air layer it. So I'm going to place a little ball of soil along one of these aerial roots, and then I'm going to chop the top off, and then I'll repot that top portion in a pot like this and let it continue to grow up another plank, and that way each new leaf hopefully gets larger and larger over time, and that's how you can get those large massive leaves on these philodendrons and like other climbing plants. So that's what I'm going to do. You can extend it, I guess, if you can somehow attach another plank on there, and it doesn't need to be repotted or anything like that. Just let it continue to grow upright. But like I said, once it reaches the top, I'm going to air layer it, stick it in another new pot, and let it start over and continue to get those large massive leaves like this one. Each new leaf you can see is getting larger. So here's one of the original ones, getting slightly larger. This one's kind of in between, and then look at this one. It's getting larger each time. So looks like a new leaf is coming here. So yeah, what a beautiful plant. This is probably one of my favorite philodendrons, the varicosum here. Just an absolutely gorgeous contrast between almost like a neon green veins with these very dark velvety leaves. Fortunately, this one has no dry edges or anything like that, so I'm going to let this soak through. Let's water this one. And I got a couple more plants to show you. One update, actually two update plants. Same thing, just water the plank, let it drip down into the soil, just like that. Let's give it a good soaking this time. Same with this one. I'm just gonna soak it. That way I know it's well watered. That's why I like using these clear or like orchid pots with a lot of my plants, as you can see the soil moisture level, but I don't know what my issue is with this one. I'm probably babying it. Like, I don't want to kill it. Like, I feel like, oh no, you know, the leaves are turning yellow, I'm overwatering it, but I'm actually doing the opposite. I think I'm letting it get too dry. Here is my Syngonium chiapense that I have in my bedroom upstairs. This is the plant that I propagated, as well as I did a very aggressive root prune because it was outgrowing this pot, and I wanted it to remain in the same size pot. In that video, I explained that if you do a root prune, typically you'll get smaller new leaves. That's how you can control the plant growth. So I just want to show, here's where I made the cut, and the first newest leaf after that, it's pretty small. And then the next one, boom, the largest leaf on the plant. And I don't know what happened with this one. It didn't unfurl properly, so I don't know if it was sticking together, but I just kind of helped it along. It's opened up a little bit, but I don't think this is going to open fully. So this leaf might be a complete loss, as it's already pushing out a new one. This one is absolutely bone dry. Like, it is as light as a feather. So yeah. And look at the roots. It's already growing out the bottom again. This thing is such a fast grower. I've propagated it probably 2 or 3 times already, and I've given some cuttings away. I've made other plants. I have one propagating in water upstairs still that I have to repot, or place in soil, I mean. Look at how fast it's draining through. So this one I'm going to give a good soaking because it needs a drink. It's still really light, and you can see there's areas where it's not reaching the roots quite yet. So I'm just going to keep giving it some water. It's probably going to lose a couple of these lower leaves as well, as they're already starting to turn yellow. And I have to clean the leaves. I've been using these beneficial mites for a thrips issue that I had in my collection a little while ago. I haven't seen anything. This is the second application, I guess, and I haven't seen any pest issues whatsoever. The leaves are really dusty. They kind of leave these, just looks like little specks of dust. So I'm going to have to spray the leaves off, clean them up. But yeah, all the mites, I haven't really seen them on the leaves anymore. But definitely took care of my, I would say, minor thrip issue. I'm just going to take these off and throw them out. They've been on for a few weeks. You can discard them after, I think they can survive and reproduce up to 8 weeks, as long as they have a food source. Okay, that should be good. I could spend all day at my little plants on planks area. But there's just a couple plants that I want to show you. One of them being my air-layered Rhaphidophora decursiva. Here's the leaf that was unfurling, and it came out perfect, undamaged. It's looking absolutely gorgeous, and you can see it's already starting to push out an aerial root, and it's latching onto the plank. So I'm just going to push that back here. I do have my Soltec Aspect Grow Light shining down on these plants. Here is a Syngonium mojito, recently put on a plank as well, and look at these roots, just gorgeous. I got a couple alocasias here as well. Here's a small little propagated Regal Shield, such a cute little guy. Get these nice purple undersides. Just a couple other little plant projects. Here's some Silver Dragon little bulbs that I found. They're getting some new growth here too. Cute little leaves. Here is a Hawaiian Pothos. Look at this. Look at this Marble Queen Pothos. Since putting it on the plank, it's just been getting these just gorgeous leaves. And here's my just regular green. Sorry, this is a golden pothos, but it's basically reverted to green. You can see the leaves are getting much larger as well. So yeah, this is kind of I guess a quick little update of the plank area, and I think it looks absolutely fantastic. This Syngonium is getting a little leaf, yellow leaf. Oops, time for you to go. Okay, so for the last little bit of plants here upstairs, I'm just going to go through just to see which ones need water. If there's some yellow leaves, I'm going to take this Wally Grow golden pothos outside, give it a good thorough watering, just spray off the leaves as well. I did want to repot or combine these Dieffenbachias together with the larger one to make a nice full pot, plus it needs a little bit of a larger pot. That's nice. I got a little bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, courtesy of the kids. I'll just tuck that off to the side. But yeah, oh, you should see, last week I tried to do a little bit of a plant chore video, and it was actually kind of I guess a little bit of a frustrating day. And I was vacuuming off this plant table, and I accidentally caught the leaf of my Ficus umbellata. This is a gorgeous plant. These leaves are like tissue paper. This is super cool, but the end of the vacuum nozzle caught the leaf. Okay, so this Aglaonema Emerald Beauty is losing a few leaves. This one I'm gonna have to cut back eventually just because it's getting a little bit leggy. I want it to be like this one. This is the Cutlass. I snipped it back and it's branching out again. So I'm just gonna remove some of these yellow leaves. I'll have to go downstairs and get my pruning shears and snip off all these flowers now that it looks like it's starting to push out some new growth. The first plant I'm going to take outside is my super luscious Hoya australis Lisa. This thing is just growing into a beast. Okay, the leaves are really thin. The pot is really light. It's losing a couple of leaves just on the back side here, so they usually just pop off like that. You can see it's on this trellis. I had to support it because it was kind of flopping over. But I'm just going to use my garden hose. Pickles is always right here. She loves the water hose. I don't know why. You want the spray? What a weirdo. Man, this thing is gorgeous. It is such a fast grower. Turn that around. And I'm just going to make sure that the soil just gets soaked. See how well draining that is? It just drains right through. So spray off the back here as well. I'm just looking to see if there's any flowers right now. It has flowered in the past. Where's those peduncles? There's one right there. It looks like it's going to start to flower. Right there. I know there's a few on this one for sure. And I love these sun-stressed red leaves. This is a dead vine. So as the plant continues to grow, I like to just wrap it around, just continuously wrap it around these trellises, and eventually it turns out like this. Here is another large Hoya. This is my Crimson Princess. This one I started from like 3 small little cuttings, probably about 2 years ago. I'm just gonna set it down. I don't want it to break anything. And look at this, it's getting, or it has these gorgeous flowers. You wanna smell it? These ones are gorgeous. The leaves, I'm just gonna set that down lightly. I don't want it to damage. The leaves, they're feeling a little bit thin. So same thing. Don't step on my flower. Pickles, move. Just gonna soak this one. The pot is really light as well, so just gonna make sure it gets thoroughly watered. Oh, here's some more flowers. Right up here, starting. This one hangs on my curtain rod in the south-facing window. I'm just gonna let that soak through. Some of the leaves, like on the back side, they get direct sun. They're pretty bleached, they're faded, but you can see as you rotate it, the front of it that faces the inside of the house, it gets these beautiful green and white variegated leaves. It gets a little bit of sun stress, the pink there as well, and that's actually wrapped itself around the, I guess, hanging supports of the basket here. Okay, now for the Wally Grow. This one's gotten super, super long. Just again, spray off the leaves. Just like, oh, don't fall. Oh God. Okay, that tipped over, saved it. Didn't lose much soil. Pickles is drinking the water. Oh my goodness. It usually has like a water reservoir at the back, which I usually fill up and just let it soak up, but I'm just gonna give it a good soaking today, but hopefully it doesn't end up on the ground. That could have been disastrous. Okay, stay. Just spray off the leaves here. I'm not gonna leave these plants outside as, like I said, it's really hot. You can see it's nothing but blue sky here. I don't wanna leave them outside because these little water droplets on the leaves, they act like magnifying glasses, and I don't want it to burn or scorch the leaves. Okay, that's really heavy. I'm just gonna let that drain through, and then I'll put it back on the wall. There is actually a yellow leaf. Just gonna pop that off. Everything else looks good. No damage done. Didn't lose any soil or anything like that, but look at these gorgeous leaves. This one too, like, I just love the yellow and green variegation. Lots of water in the back of the reservoir. Just gonna tilt this forward and let that drain through. Little holes in the front of it allow for excess water to drain out of, and it just doesn't pool at the bottom. So just gonna let that drain through. Okay, the last one I'm gonna do is my super underwatered, thirsty Hawaiian golden pothos. The leaves are curling. This is the one that I recently air layered. I'm gonna chop the top off this one and hopefully put it in its own new pot here soon. Let it grow up a plank or a pole, and get large, massive leaves. So I'm going to soak the pole on this one and the soil here as well. Just gorgeous leaves. You want more water? Such a weirdo. This one's outgrown the little burlap pole, but that's okay. I'm just going to wrap it. Maybe not. I don't want to snap it, but the leaves are starting to get smaller, so it definitely needs to latch onto something to grow upright to get those larger leaves. Otherwise, it'll start to develop those smaller leaves once it doesn't have that support system to grow upright. I think everything else inside here looks good for now. Here's my Hoyas that I have up in the window. Here is my Australis Lisa right here in the south-facing window, kind of tucked in with the jades. Everything on the plant shelf looks good for now. I'll probably have to do a couple more plant chore videos down the road with some other projects I have, some propagations, which I wanted to get to today, but unfortunately my kids are bugging me to get the pool ready, so I'll have to cut it a little bit short for chores today, and I'll definitely make a couple more videos of some other projects I want to do. Like I said, this Dieffenbachia, some other repotting stuff, propagations, watering, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's going to be pretty much it for this video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave it down below in the comment section. Thanks again for watching. Appreciate all the support. Take care, everyone.